Welcome back, everybody, to Neutrality Studies. Today, with a colleague from YouTube, I've got with me Rasheed Muhammad from the Red Pill Diaries. Rasheed, welcome.
Thank you, and thank you for having me on the platform today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much for coming online. We had a little bit of a fight with our technology, but I'm glad that we have a working connection in the end. Rasheed, maybe let me start just with asking you, what made you start your own podcast? And you hosted me on your podcast last week. What's behind Red Pill Diaries? Why did you start it? And where are you based, actually?
I'm based in Pensacola, Florida, pretty much on the Florida Panhandle. And what started it is that I used to do a program for about 12 years, a blog talk program, and I was trying to get the truth out to people, and so as Blog Talk started going under, I transitioned to trying to do YouTube so that I could talk to the people and address some of the underlying questions and answers that most podcasts they either overlook or they don't consider. And I think sometimes when we get to a certain point, I don't think it's always deliberate. I just think that we're more concerned about big news stories instead of the details that more people should be aware of, and so that they can be informed on how to and when they make their decisions.
And when did you start your Red Pill Diaries? And you've interviewed different people. Like, what kind of subjects have you been working on so far?
I've interviewed people from the former Assistant Secretary of the U.S. Treasury, Dr. Paul Craig Roberts, multiple time, Cynthia McKinney, two-time former Congresswoman of the United States. I'm good colleagues with former CIA analyst Larry Johnson. I just did an interview, I think 2 days ago or 3 days ago, with Colonel Larry Wilkerson. I've done multiple interviews with a lot of people, and I I've covered things on geopolitical events, economics, race, international law, human law, and all of those things. And I try to address the things that are left out of the mainstream media, but also left out of the mainstream of alternative media also.
So, what is it? I mean, for you in the United States on the ground, and I think your main motivation was basically to find out more about uh, how uh, mm, how international relations and how politics is working, and not so much like maybe the academic part, but what's going on. What do you think is missing currently inside the United States when it comes to the entire information environment?
Well, I think there's a lot of things missing. I think when it comes to information, I think even with the alternative media, they leave out things that are pertinent to the facts of what led to January 6 riots or something like that. And I show the double standards, like when you go to the so-called riots that happened in Oregon because the police killed a few people, and then the few people vandalized a few buildings, and then I show the contrast of how they were called thugs and criminals, and then you had people, even though they were dissatisfied with the election, they went and ransacked the congressional capitol, took people hostages, people died, and they were called patriots, and even are being let go from prison. And I show the contrast of that, and to show the people, unless you address these double standards, and I don't think it is uh, done purposely. Sometimes I think it is just innately in the head of a lot of people. But unless they address these double standards, this is one of the main things that is leading to the ineptitude of government and the collapse of the American empire, because of the hypocrisy, and it has seeped so deep that it has become so systemic that what Black America was calling out 30, 40 years ago, the entire world is now calling out today. The hypocrisy, the exceptionalism, the intransigence, the disrespect for law, the disrespect for allies and enemies alike, and what I call retractable laws, where the United States, when they talk about Iran's nuclear program, and they say that Iran could be getting a nuke. Well, America has thousands of nukes. And America is the only nation that ever used nukes once or twice. And America is a signature of one of the same treaties that Iran is a signature to. And according to that treaty, that America, Russia, China, Britain, and France are supposed to get rid of their nuclear weapons. So while they say on one hand that they need it for national security, they think that everybody else do not have the right for that same thing. So I point out these inconsistencies and the hypocrisy of the global system, which is what we're seeing now is the blow up from this hypocritical, selfish, self-centered policy of the Western world.
Hey, very brief intermission because I was recently banned from YouTube, and although I'm back, this can happen anytime again. So please consider subscribing not only here, but to my mailing list on Substack. That's pascalotta.substack.com. The link's going to be in the description below, and now back to the video. This is very interesting. Like, when did you start thinking like that? Because I mean, I share that sentiment 100%. The hypocrisy that nuclear weapon states are using, the hypocrisy in the Iran war, right? Going two nuclear weapon states going to a war with a non-nuclear weapon state over that non-nuclear weapon state having the right to basically have a peaceful nuclear program. It's the hypocrisy is through the roof. But when did you start thinking like that? And you use the expression American empire. When did you start thinking of your country as an empire? And when can you maybe also talk a little bit about another term you used, Black America? What do you think is different between Black America and well, the other America?
Well, we'll address the last first. Black America, and I'm not saying this to be to just be saying it, but Black America are the ones who are the most on the fringe. They are the ones that need the education the most because they've had the even though they had access to education, it wasn't the proper education. So this is why their votes can be manipulated. This is why they can be manipulated. This is why the system has not benefited them in so many words. When we talk about equality, how can you and I be equal when you still control the reins of all power? How can you and I be equal when you control all the economics and the business? How can we be equal when any and every lever of power is really controlled by you? Equality is not giving me a job. Equality is educating me properly and then helping me to build something for myself. So Black America has been dumbed down the most, even as they cried for justice. They've been dumbed down the most, believing that the system has changed. And I do believe that Barack Obama was that Manchurian candidate to lull Black America back to sleep because they were awakening the masses of the injustices that are not just done to Black people, but are done to everybody around the world. And what the power structure behind closed doors did, they masked it behind a Black face. You understand? With Obama, because his policies were more detrimental to Black America than a lot of presidents before him. But he was able to bounce a basketball. He was able to talk the street lingo. So he was able to mesmerize Black America and allow the powers that be to go in and reoccupy and destroy Libya, even though Libya was fighting for Africa's independence. But had it been done under George Bush, Black America would have been outraged, but they were not outraged because it was a Black face that was hiding Western imperialism. And so what I was trying to do is inform them that, listen, you have to be more educated on this. You have to look at actions of people, not just words, but actions. And when you look at actions and you start taking accountability for actions, your own and others as well, then you see things more clearly. And that is the one thing. And once I address that per se, because they are, I would say, Black America, or are like on the totem pole, or the lowest on the totem pole. Then the message spreads out to everybody else who are in a better economic, socioeconomic, and educational position in Black America. And that's why I separated the two, so that you could understand uh, why I said what I said.
Do you think that Black America is actually, you know, seeing through this more clearly, like what is happening and how this imperial system is working also on the inside? And you know, as in, do you see that Black America is maybe also seeing the pain of Iran and the pain of Palestine and the pain of the other suppressed nations around the world? Is that something, or is this just my wishful thinking?
No, no, that's actually it. We see, for decades, Black America had been calling out these things: the injustice, the hypocrisy, the double standards, the racism, the fascism, all of this stuff, and they masked the powers that be, masked it behind American exceptionalism. That city that sits upon the hill, and everybody wanted to flock to. And now what's happening is the system is starting to turn inwardly and eat itself, and eat the people whom it was designed to benefit the most. And now people are being forced to wake up. And Black America sympathizes, especially with Iran, because remember, during the revolution, um, and the Iranians took the embassy. They allowed the women and the Black hostages freedom. They let them go. They said, the Ayatollah said, because Black America has suffered and still suffers under an oppressive system, that he would allow for the women and Black people to go free. And Black America has not forgotten that. And also, when it comes to the Palestine, Black America is close to Palestine and the rest, because of the suffering, because of the injustice. You have to understand that not only has Palestine lost land, but America promised Black people 40 acres and a mule after the Civil War, during the Civil War. They reneged on their promises, and Black America was left after slavery to go back to the slave master with little or no education and little or no land, so they could not build for themselves. And now, with Black America, when we look internally and then we look externally, we see that happening to the Palestinians, how their land was ripped from them. And then, and everybody says, well, Israel has the right to exist. Well, doesn't Palestine have the right to exist? Everybody says that America has the right to exist, but doesn't the Chinese, who helped lay the railways across America, Black America, the Native Americans, and the Irish, who had a part in building America, don't they have a right to exist on independent territory? And one of the things that I bring to the forefront is, okay, America never did anything wrong to the Israelis, to the Jews, and yet they made a land for them. And yet they refused to give 40 acres and a mule to people who suffered for 400 years under their lashes and who built the country up. And so this hypocrisy that is domestically is now being seen internationally, because it's starting to touch everybody else.
And when did you develop this perception of the United States? Was this something that you always kind of thought since high school, that this is unfair, or is this something that kind of grew as a perception only in the last couple of years? Like, how did it go for you?
Well, see, my whole family served. Like, I have an uncle who just passed away. He served two tours of Vietnam. Every it seems like every third cousin, every second or third cousin of mine has been in the military, uh, or in some sort of government. Even a family member, I don't want to say the person's name and how close they are to me, but they helped build submarines. Okay, so and I don't want them to get in any trouble. But what I'm saying is, my view came through experience and through watching the world, because science teaches us that environment shapes you just as much as DNA. and the environment, the mental environment, the economic environment, the political and the geopolitical environment helped mold and shape me to see things as it was and not as I wanted it to be, because I was naive. And I always had a passion to learn and to read and to study history, not just Black history, culture around the world. And so the histories of other nations and stuff like that. And that's what led me, because injustice for one person is injustice for everybody. When a human is denied human rights, or or denied justice in any way, all of man has been denied justice and human rights. And that's the way I see it. Because I'm a true believer in God, and I believe that if you believe God and you're a God-fearing man or woman, this should touch you to your heart, regardless of race, color, class, creed, or anything. But I address um, color because this is the thing that America does not want to address.
Oh, I mean, in the public narrative, and I think we both kind of work on that, right? We both are aware that what the media portrays and what the political narrative says is not not how things are working, right? It's not how the empire behaves, and the empire includes then, of course, the core in the United States. It includes its allies in Europe and Japan, and it includes the power structures that then trickle down and allow the system to work the way it does. How many people, how many percentage, let's say, of Black America do you think share your perception? Rough estimate, like because a good part might actually believe in some of the government narratives, right? Also about Iran being evil, about Russia being an aggressive nation or whatnot. What would you say within Black America? How many people see through the make believe?
I would that right there, that question is hard to pin down, because if I say 20% of Black America sees through it, but at the same time, they also want to be accepted as American. You know, they don't, the ones that do see through it, a lot of them don't want to expose it, because then they will be looked at as un-American. And for all of their lives, they have been trying to be accepted as an American. You see, I don't care one way or the other, so long as God is happy with me. I just want the truth to come out, you know. And so there's a small percentage that sees through the lies of the Western world, but we have to understand that America does a great job of propagandizing. And if you're at the bottom of society and you have the least access to information, and you have the least access to education or whatever like that, the propagandization of you will affect you more than it would everybody else, because you don't have, I'm sorry, my camera failed. You won't have that same access as everybody else. So once you learn a little about America's true motives, her true actions, it wakes you up. And I'm gonna tell you a turning point that woke me up. I was doing research one time, and I was realizing, and the prices were high on, and someone capped me, said, you know, that America is so wicked that she has ships full of food. And this was like in the 70s or early 80s. And to keep the prices high, she would send the ships out to sea and sink them. And I'm like, no, America, no, no, no. So when I did the research, I realized that America she would do something just like that for profit over the lives of people. Think about how that affects people's lives.
Where was that? Like that was not about the United States, right? That was somewhere else.
No, no, this was America. She is so greedy for profit that she would take ships out. You can do research on this. She would sink ships full of food and cargo to keep prices high in America and around the globe. As a matter of fact, we're looking at that right now. Look how selfish she is right now. because her ego has been hurt, because her pride has been broken, that she's willing to strangle the entire globe by trying to embargo Iran because Iran wants independence, Iran wants dignity, Iran wants freedom, Iran wants to be treated equally. So she's ready to blow up the entire world economy to save face. This shows you the arrogance of empire. And whenever a nation, a people, or a country or a government reaches that level, they must be removed because they have shown that they are not worthy of that position globally or domestically.
Within the United States, do you think it pains a lot of people? Does it cause hurt to realize that your country is engaged in such acts? Does it pain you?
I'm a realist, and I was. Let me put it like this: I can't say I'm from America, but I can't say that I am an American because I've never ever um, fully enjoyed all the rights that are given to Americans. Um, um, and 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 we can say that about most of Black America. They've never enjoyed full citizenship. As a matter of fact, the Constitution had us 3/5 of human beings. All right. So we and when it comes to the access to the justice system, if you don't have money and you don't have connections, so you never really can say that you're an American unless you can have the full guaranteed rights that Americans have. So does it pain me um, to see that America's like this? No, she's like this. Action speaks louder than words. Um, she's never adhered to any international trade or treaty that she's signed, from whether it was with Black America, whether it was with the Chinese, whether it was with Morocco, whether it was with the Native Americans. And look at what she's doing now. She's disavowed all of the international treaties that kept the world stable with the nuclear weapons treaties and stuff with Russia. She only uses these things for advantage. As long as it is to her advantage, she uses them. And this is the thing that I have to call out, because most people don't do this because it's wishful thinking. America will do this. No, if you look at a person's actions, it more than their rhetoric, it tells you more about them. One time, okay. Two times, okay. Maybe three times. But if this is a pattern shows you the mental makeup of a person and what to expect from them. They have all kinds of algorithms that follow patterns so that they can address advertising to you. Well, if we look at America's patterns, it's war, it's greed, it's occupation, it's destruction, it's always pointing the finger at you, and always benevolent to me. I'm America. I'm benevolent, but you are an insurgent. You thousands of miles away in Iraq. The Iraqis are insurgents. They're terrorists. All right, they're extremists, and yet America is the benevolent fighter. You go to North Africa, the same thing. Look at what she's doing to Europe to advance her hegemony. She is willing to sacrifice the entire nation of Ukraine. She tried to sacrifice Georgia, and now she's willing to sacrifice the entirety of Europe to try to continue her hegemonic rule over the entire planet. If that is not enough to open up and say, hey, listen, something is wrong with the people that run this country. Something is wrong with the political system of the country. Something is wrong with the governance of the country. Then I don't know what is.
This is so interesting because I mean um, the civil rights movement in the United States in the 60s and 70s was using very similar language. And, Dr. Martin Luther King and Malcolm X, they were calling out the injustices inside the United States and what it did abroad. So where do you I think in a lot of public imagination, the social the 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 civil rights movement was highly successful in getting equal rights for everybody. But do you see it like that, or is it an unfinished business inside the United States to finally tame that beast that creates all of that death and destruction outside and inside, actually?
I think the civil rights movement was misplaced because they sought civil rights. But before you can ever get civil rights, you have to be first recognized as a human. So you have to have human rights. And when a person sees you as a human, then they'll see the civility in you. I think they had it backwards. And I think a lot of people still have it backwards. And this is why America is still able to do what she's doing domestically and internationally. She demonizes a leader that's a regime, that's a thug, that's a tyrant. She demonizes. She makes them inhuman to the people. And so once she dehumanizes them, she then can take away their civil liberties and go in and just disregard international law, disregard American law, disregard Venezuelan law, and kidnap a president, and then justify it through the lies that she told. And then even after the lies collapse about the Venezuelan president being the head of a drug cartel that we find out never existed, America still holds the president captive and try to trump up new charges. This is because she dehumanized him to the people. And she was, by dehumanizing him, then she was able to rob him of his civil liberties. And that's what she does with everybody that she disagrees with. When she disagrees with Europe, Europe is the fall. You know, and even though it's American policies which dominate European politics, even though it's American policies that dominate policies in Africa, in Latin America, in the Caribbean, and in West Asia. Look at everywhere she goes. She leaves a trail of death and destruction, despair, and disagreement, because she is able to use propaganda to dehumanize people and then strip away their civil rights and civil liberties. And then she's able to occupy them. She's able to rob them of their resources. She's able to make the people, distract the people with basketball and football. And this is what she does. If she cannot dehumanize you, she distracts you with Kim Kardashian, with things that don't matter in the scheme of life, in the scheme of liberty, in the scheme of freedom, justice, and equality. This is what America does.
Why did she get so good at this? I mean, the United States of America is only 250 years old. You know, I mean, for the Chinese, that's basically blink of an eye. For the Iranians too, even for the Europeans, 250 years is like what we look back and go like, oh yeah, that house was built like longer than that. The city where I'm from, you know, my where I did my university studies. I mean, my friends live in houses that were built 700 years ago, and they, you know, you just big stone buildings, and you just renovate them, and you live there after 700 years, and that's just normal. How is it that such a young place with such a diverse group of people that are there voluntarily and involuntarily, let's not forget about the older people who were brought there involuntarily, that this then has that much freedom of action to roam around and do all of these things? How do you explain that to yourself?
Well, from her inception, she was able to do it. She conned the Indians. She conned the Africans. And she told them when she went to the shores of Africa that I'll pay you 2 and 3 times the gold for your labor. She get them on ships. She takes them over here. She was able to do it. And we have to understand something, because the American psyche is built on a lie. We have to understand, we have to acknowledge that. Without acknowledging this first, you'll never get anywhere else. America's founding fathers were criminals. They were criminals. And we have to understand this. Nobody wants to address this, but they were sent here just like some were sent to Australia. Some were sent to New Zealand. They were criminals. And so what does a criminal do? A criminal will con you, will scheme you, will become good at what they do. And this is why they had no second thought of demonizing another people and making them less than human to use them for their benefit, to build up a nation. So this was from the inception of America, the bloodshed. Remember when she got here, there were 75 million Native Americans. After she got here, there were 2 million. That was not by chance. 100 million people died in the Middle Passage. That's not by chance. This is she was built on blood, lies, and deception. And a lot of people don't like that reality. But if we're ever able to move forward, we have to address the inconvenient truths. And this is what I continue to tell people. We can't go through life through this make-believe world, I call it Walt Disney World. Because when you do that, the ramifications are terrible. Look at what is happening now economically. Look at what is happening now politically, domestically in America, where you have a great divide. And look at what is happening globally, geopolitically, and financially, where now you have nations pulling away from the dollar because now they're realizing that the dollar really is not to their benefit, and that is built on a lie. And America uses this to keep her hegemonic ways and to suppress other nations' growth and to suppress independence of nations. See, this is what I'm saying. If we don't address this, it snowballs. And when it snowballs, it takes on a life of its own, and it becomes a fire that is almost unquenchable.
Are you hopeful though that it can be changed, that despite these like very violent beginnings of the United States and the genocide itself, the genocide on the native population and this crime against humanity of slavery, and we've had in the United Nations just a few months ago a vote on recognizing slavery and the slave trade as a crime against humanity. And of course, the United States, Israel, and Argentina voted against it. But the rest of the world more or less recognizes that this was a crime against humanity. Do you have hope that the recognition of these facts will help to change the future of Lady America?
Two things about that. First of all, the reason these three nations voted against it is because it's an embarrassment to America. Israel also helped in apartheid Africa, and Argentina sent a huge portion of their black population off to wars to be killed. So those three nations voted against it because it was in their interest to vote against what was truth. Now, you asked me a question: do I have any hope that America can change her ways? And I facetiously throw the question back to you: is that, has her actions shown you that she's able to do it? Look around the world. Look around the world. Is she trying to make amends? Has she apologized to the millions of Ukrainians that are being slaughtered? Has she apologized to the nations in Europe for what she's done to them and what she continues to do to them? Has she apologized and made amends to the African nations or the Caribbean nations or the Latin American nations? And even at this very moment, she's plotting war against China in Asia. So has her action, see, when a person has done something wrong, I bring this up on my show a lot. If I do something wrong to you, Pascal, all right, and I'm sincerely sorry about it, first thing is for me to contemplate it and realize what I've done to you. The second thing is to acknowledge it to myself, then to acknowledge it to you. And then from acknowledging it to you, to then put an action behind it to show you that I'm truly sincere and sorry for what I've done to you. So if this is applicable to you and I, why isn't it applicable to the so-called freest and most powerful nation on the planet?
Yeah, no, being an hopeless optimist, I would still hope, of course, that change is possible and that that we can actually, not just America. I mean, it's not just the United States; it's the Europeans too, right? they still haven't recognized all of the hurt, and they haven't recognized all of the colonialism that they are still doing. They're still involved in. So, but the hope is that the recognition will come, and that the toning down and the restraint, and that we will get to a point where this kind of insane level of violence is not going to be used anymore, because violence is always used as tools. It's a tool of statecraft. It's a tool of domination, and the goal would have to be to restrain that. But the restraint will not come without proper recognition of what is going on, and what the mechanisms are. But because the mechanisms, they are, you have this beautiful narrative on top of it, right? Like we are for human rights, we are for equality and la 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 and liberty, and we go and liberate the Iranians, and go and liberate the Iraqis, and go and liberate the slaves, right? And who liberated the slaves? A white man. Abe Lincoln liberated the slaves. Yay, go white man, liberate everybody. But unless we see through that, we can't change it. But I still have the hope, because at the end of the day, it's humans. So I don't know. That's maybe how I would give it back and say, like, yeah, that's why it's important to deconstruct the narratives. So is this one of your motivations to go and deconstruct?
Yes, and also, like you were just saying about the hope for America and the hope for Europe, because you said that Europe did a lot of things colonial wise, and still doing things. Well, this again, there is a law that God put at the base of the universe called cause and effect, right? And so, in the Bible, I'm not sure, but in the Bible it says, "As thou hast done, so shall it be done unto thee." So we recognize what the West has done. Now karma is coming back, and we're seeing it economically, politically, and geopolitically. You don't have to stop a criminal. Listen, a criminal, and I'm not calling everybody a criminal. I'm using this as an example. A criminal that breaks into people's houses, and they're really good at it, eventually gets caught. And if they continue to do it and not stop and try to make amends, they will eventually get caught. Well, this is what I'm telling you. You don't have to stop. Time and circumstances, karma, or what goes around comes around, will come back and get you. And in science, it says that any action will what start an equal or greater reaction. We are not exempt to that. No man, woman, and child is exempt to that. So what we're looking at is like let's address the American economic crisis that is now going on. A lot of people saying, well, this happened overnight. No, this has been happening since the 30s, since 1914, actually. Then America defaulted on her debt in the 30s. When she revalued gold, that was a default. Regardless of what they want to say, that was a default. Then when you look at going into the 60s, America started robbing her currency. See, this is what criminals do. Started robbing her currency of the silver backing of it. So after 1965, her quarters and her dimes no longer had silver in it, no silver content. And from 65 to 70, her half dollars and her dollars lost the silver content in it. So now it pushed us to a moment in 1971. So 71 didn't come out of the blue. It was a building up of that. And so America was spending more than what she was taking in, and Charles de Gaulle was watching it, and others were watching it. And Richard Nixon said, America's dollar is as good as gold. And Charles de Gaulle said, well, then give us gold, and caused a run on the dollar. And this made the U.S. default again. I don't care what they say, when they refused to exchange the dollars for gold and took the world off the gold and silver standard. All right. And I'm saying this, I'm giving a jump history to show you the ramifications of arrogance, hubris, greed, ineptitude, and malfeasance of policies. So then you go up to the 80s, where you have the Glass-Steagall Act. And then the 90s, when we removed the Glass-Steagall Act, and then the business start doing all kinds of bets on bets on bets on bets, and what we have the derivative markets, right? And and the dollar had no backing, but the bullet. People say no, the dollar was backed by oil. No, it was backed by the American military might, which forced nations to buy uh, oil and oil subsidies in dollars. Now we are up to a point now where that that have you ever seen a guy on the street and he has 3 cups on the table and he's moving like this and but you don't know that he's already moved the ball to his back pocket. That's what America has been doing financially and politically since then. And now people are calling out the trick because they're no longer distracted by the illusion that the magician puts before the people. When the magician does a trick, he directs your attention somewhere else. Now people are looking at the debt burden. Now people are looking at the condition of America with poverty everywhere. You cannot go 3 blocks in America without someone on the side of the with a sign saying donate or help or whatever. You can't do that. Look at the state of her bridges and her roads. She can never find money for the people that she says she's building up national security for. But she can always find money to bribe nations, bribe leaders, for R&D, research and development for the deadliest weapons and biological and chemical weapons, and for war. There's an old saying that says, charity starts at home, then it spreads abroad. If you are truly about national security, how about you secure the nation and the people that you represent before you start going abroad, setting up bases, causing war, and all of this stuff. This is what I'm trying to bring to the forefront to the people. There's an old African proverb also, and I'll stop after this. The old African proverb says, "If there is no enemy within, enemy within can do you no harm." So if America were to take just a portion of what she gave in aid out, just a portion of what she spent on her military budget and invested it in her people, her education, her health care, then she would not have to worry about having forward bases all around the world to defend her. Nobody would want to attack her. People would envy her.
The audio broke off exactly where you quoted the proverb. What does the African proverb say? Just the proverb.
It says, if there is no enemy within, the enemy without can do you no harm.
Ah.
So, so, so if you're taking care of home and you're doing right by home, you don't have to worry about what's going on out there because the people who are watching will see how well you take care of your own home and they will want to mimic that because they marvel at it because they want the same thing.
It's it's a very wise proverbs. I mean, it's quite fascinating how people like many hundreds or thousands of years before us actually understood all of these like fundamental issues, and we are then we have to rediscover them. But um, I I completely agree with you. I mean, I completely agree that we need to make sure that our nations take care of us and of themselves first and foremost, and stop externalizing everything that's going bad and then ruin the lives of others in the process of that. The if you could just change one thing about the United States system, the political system, the way she exists today, what thing would you change and how?
One thing about the American system. That's a hard one there. I would demolish it.
Really, the whole thing?
I would demolish it. I would demolish it. Because it has shown for 250 years, it has shown itself to be corrupt. It's unjust, greedy, arrogant, and full of hubris. Now, if that is to the core, which it is, then what must you do? You have to you cannot expect 1 or 2 people to come and change the system. Remember, all of these people who are presidents or who were presidents or who ran for Congress, they had these beautiful ideas on the campaign trail that I'll do this when I get in office and I'll do this. And then instead of them changing the system, because the system is so corrupt, the system changed them.
Yeah.
So when you get to that point, the system is no longer beneficial to the people. Therefore, you must uproot the system. And therefore, you must change the mind. Again, when we look at, let me give you an example to this. America is always talking about that America must rule. America must lead the world. America must do this, right? Let's look at this in terms of a corporation for a second. If I'm the CEO, I'm America, and I'm the CEO of a corporation, and I'm running that corporation into the ground, and we're not seeing profit. Our profits are done, and every year is debt over debt. I'm cutting pay for the employees. I'm not living up to any of my promises. I'm not following any guidelines or policies that were laid out for me. You, as a shareholder, would fire me, right?
Yeah.
As the CEO, you would fire me because I'm not benefiting you. So you would have to root out the CEO, the president, the CFO, the COO. You would have to do that and put other people in that that could change it from the root, because we'll see that it's systemic rot. And so it is with America. Why must America lead? Why must America exist like this when she has brought us to the brink of thermonuclear annihilation? She has nuclear power on the planet, Russia. She is antagonizing the biggest economic power on the planet, China. He is waging war against a middle power, Iran. He is destabilizing an Africa that is reaching for itself. She is sacrificing European security to try to do all of this. And she is overthrowing Latin American wishes for true independence. So her actions shows us that this is systemic. So in order for some change to be had, you got to uproot it. And you got to start growing something new. Because out of the mind of people, see, systems don't just spring up, they spring up out of your mind. And you have to remove the people who have this in their mind. And you have to bring in new schools of thought to bring in better ways of governance that benefit the people. Therefore, you must do away with the whole system.
Well, I can definitely see you planting something new, one red pill at a time. Rasheed, that was a very, very passionate talk and explanation. People who want to follow you, where should they go? Your YouTube channel, and is there other places where they should find you?
Yes, I'm on YouTube, Odyssey, Rumble, Kick, Twitch, Twitter, and what is the Telegram now? And also a Trumpet of Truth. No, it is empowermenttruth.com. You can also follow me on Patreon. And I really appreciate this, but please support me on Rumble, Odyssey, and YouTube.
Okay, and I will put the links to your platforms into the description box below. I apologize to everybody for the connection issues that we were having, but the good news is all of your speech came through very, very clearly, and we will have you back on here in the near future. Rasheed Muhammad from the Red Pill Diaries, thank you so much for your time today.